Alright, now we'll start the reassembling process. What we'll do first is, after getting rid of a little more dust before we close her up, first thing we'll do is lay the motherboard back in the bottom half of the shielding. Okay. Now we're looking at the bottom again. Here are our two processors. Before we forget, I'm going to put these two small screws back in, holding the hard drive container to the board. And don't forget, sometimes you put these together and you get all the way done and a couple of screws left on the table and you're thinking, oh brother, where'd these guys come out of? So we'll reattach those first. Now we'll put the top shield back on. I'm going to feed the Blu-ray drive data cable back through the hole. There we go. And there's two little hooks here that we're going to attach. We're going to hook in to the bottom part of the shield. If I'm going too fast, you know, go back and rewind the video a little bit. Okay, so we get the bottom, we've got the top. Now what we want to do, let's see, it's situated in the right direction. Now we're going to take our heat sink and fan, and we've got our fan power cable over here in the upper left hand corner, and it connects here. Here's our battery we need to reconnect. So we're going to lay the heat sink with both of those blocks, lay it down on top of the two processors. It just lays there, and then sort of press down your thumbs a little bit. Okay, that's in place now. It's not going to fall off. We're not going to flip it upside down, but it'll stay there. Now we'll reattach the power cable for the fan. That's another thing, that first few of these that you take apart, you put it back together, turn the machine on, and there's no fan, and then you go, oh golly, you got to take it apart and plug the stupid fan back in. So don't forget to plug your fan back in. And we're going to plug our battery back into the motherboard. Okay. The little interface has two parts there. Normally you just pull out the outer white plug, and the inner sort of cream colored interface is attached to the motherboard. Sometimes they both pull out together. Don't panic. Just slide them back onto the four little pins and you'll be fine. Just don't bend the pins. So now that the heatsink and the fan are back in place, turn the board right side up, and let's put our brackets back in place to hold the heatsink snugly against the processors. And I've got the, I'm using a cordless drill here, but I have the torque set all the way down to 0. You don't want to over-tighten any of these screws, but you don't want to over-tighten these particularly going into the heatsink. They come out with the torque set to 0. Put them back in with the torque set to, to, I guess it's still 1. Sorry, not 0. So just enough to make them snug is fine. And we'll put the plastic back cover back on. It comes off easier than it goes. It goes on easier than it comes off. Just clicks on. We're done. Now let's grab the case bottom. Dust that out just a little bit more. Okay. And I lift up all the guts. Here's our case bottom. We lay the front end first, and you'll see there's a little pin on each side at the front, and they fit into little holes here at the front of the case. Set those in, and then lay the back down, and it just falls right into place just like that. Now, let's put our screws back in. We've got a long screw here in the back, along that one long, wide threaded screw. We have our 2 small screws that we marked with our Sharpie. 1, 2. Putting in all the kind of oddball screws first. Do it any way you like. You're lucky enough you just have one PlayStation 3 to worry about. And we're going to finally put our little ground screw back in to hold our ground wire to the case. Okay. Now we've got the motherboard, the shielding, everything back into the case bottom, and now we'll put in our 5 screws, the 5 wide thread screws. That really attach the motherboard heatsink assembly to the case bottom. Alright, so now that's in there and that's not going anywhere. Now we're back in business as far as that goes. And the next step is, let's see, we're going to put our reset and eject buttons back in place. A metal base there. Reattach the ribbon cable here. And the final 4, there's a total of 9. Here's the final 4 wide threaded screws. Again, our torque is set to 1. Nothing in here that needs to be so tight. Again, it's not the space shuttle. We're not trying to keep the heat tiles on. Alright, that's back in place. And now we'll begin putting back all the rest of the goodies, and then we'll turn it back on again.